Should we quickly cover the producer policy stuff? Thanks for fixing the date.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right, yeah. Media are here. So we are planning to make this as an update to the policy work we are doing. And next step is adding support for namespaces. This MIDR was already merged and partially implemented in the 2.8. But yeah, here I can give a quick overview what we're going to introduce and what's the direction we decided to take with namespace policies. So first of all, why do we even want namespace policies? It's more Kubernetes native, and I guess people expect when you work with resources that you have namespace. It's like a isolation mechanism provided by Kubernetes so that you can allocate namespace for the team, and you can work with RBAC. When you have namespaces, it's way more way more fine-grained when you can target some specific policy in the namespaces. Yeah, it's not sustainable to grant access to the whole Kuma system namespace because you can have many people who manage their resources and you don't want everyone to write to the same namespace. And yeah, service owners, that's kind of all about one thing, but just with different angles. That service owner should have a way to affect the configurations of the client without actually negotiating with the mesh operators to put stuff into Kuma system namespace. So these are the main decision drivers, and we also considered some other options. For example, implicitly convert policy namespace to namespace label. So basically do the same as we do with zone label. When you apply policy on zone, it just implicitly adds zone tag. And so that your policy selects only data planes on this zone. We did kind of, and the second one is adopt producer consumer concept from Gamma. And we kind of took some hybrid approach, I believe, in the end. So we still do, yeah, I'll cover that. So pros and cons, but the main idea now is that we take producer policies and consumer policies as a different roles. Like now you have a role on the policy that is defined by who creates this policy. If this is service owner who creates, let's say, mesh timeout, and they want to affect the clients, or this is mesh timeout created by client of some service, and you want to modify outgoing request to some service. So now policies have roles, producer and consumer, and depending on the role, they are synced differently. Obviously, if you create producer policy, your backend service owner, you know your clients or you don't, but when you create producer policy, your clients might be in the different zone. That's why if policy is producer policy, we need to sync this to all zones that potentially can consume your application. On the other hand, if you create consumer policy, this means the scope is limited only to the top level target trap. You don't have to sync this policy elsewhere except the zone. So the definition, like a formal definition is listed here. We're gonna say that policy is producer policy if inside two section it targets the same namespace as the namespace where it was created. And if it's different, for example, here you have policy in front end namespace that targets backend namespace, and we say this is consumer policy. That's the formal definition. Yeah, then some stuff about validation. We're also planning to introduce a lot of syntactic sugar because it really makes no sense sometimes to put specific values into the top level target trap. As a user, when I create policy, I already put this in some zone and I already put this in some namespace. So there is really no point for user to just duplicate these values again inside the spec. So the idea is to keep the spec ideally as small as possible, and all these values will be automatically figured based on the where and like what zone and what namespace the policy was applied. So that's kind of the main reason for this syntactic sugar. Specifically, like if you create producer policy like this, we imply top level target ref mesh. Or we also have workload, but yeah, you can read the ADR about workload. The main types are producer and consumer. Yeah, so here about the multi-zone, how it works multi-zone. I just said that we need to sync producer policy to all zones. On the other hand, consumer policies can stay in one zone. Right, cross resource references. Now inside one policy, you can reference the real resource that you want to apply your config to. The resources that you can reference are potentially mesh service, mesh HTTP route, mesh external service, mesh multi-zone service in the future. So, and referencing is tricky because if reference work in one zone, when you sync both resources to other zone, a reference might be broken. That's why this section covers how you planning to handle this. So references work everywhere. Right, and then we have an example that sums everything that was previously. So yeah, I can quickly maybe cover this example. Backend service owner wants, is it the beginning? Where is the beginning of the example? I guess this one. Policy in zone 1 references mesh service in zone 1. Right. Oh no, this is about syncing. I think this example is about syncing that we will rewrite, which is actually not true. I will update this MADR. We don't want to rewrite anymore. Policy in zone 1 references mesh HTTP routes from zone 2. Oh yeah, sorry, this was example specifically about this naming section. It's not about example for the document. I think we had this somewhere as well. So yeah, this is about mesh gateway. We are planning to support mesh gateway in the top level target trap. Yeah, I think we don't have like a big example to cover everything. But yeah, do you have any questions?
How does this differ from the gamma concept? Are there any like core differences there?
Gamma sort of defines this concept only for routes. So they say when they give definition, they always say producer route, consumer route. So we kind of had to extend producer and consumer not to just routes, but to all policies. But the main principle is that producer route, yeah, the main idea is the same. If you create stuff in your namespace, and in this namespace, the service you're running. So if you create stuff in this namespace, then this is considered producer policy, and that's why it should be advertised to all clients. And yeah, if you, oh, sorry, you create in your namespace, but you, inside two sections, you select your service. So yeah, you need two conditions to meet. One is it's in your namespace, and another is that in two sections you have your service, the same namespace. But yeah, it's kind of similar, but extended for all policies, not just for ours.
Makes sense. Thanks.
Any other questions? Yeah, if we don't have any questions, then I think we can end this call. So have a good day, everyone. See you later. Bye.
Thanks.